Hi, and welcome back to Forged by Geeks. Today we're reviewing a game called Dwarven Smithy. First saw this at Gen Con 2016. Besides the game impressing me, the creator, Mike, he really impressed me as well. One of the most passionate creators I met at Gen Con that year, and in the couple of years I've been there as a creator of board games. So I told him when it was time, please send me a copy, I'd look it over, and if I liked it, I'd give it a shot and possibly do a couple of videos for it. Well, needless to say, we now have this review video going up right as the Kickstarter's launching this morning, along with a how to play video and a session video. If you'd like to see more about those, you can find them in that block of text that sits between this video and the comments that no one ever looks at. So, to start out, I just wanted to comment on a couple things that I really loved about the game. It's a competitive game, which isn't normally our thing, if you've watched any of our videos, but it's Euro style to a degree. It doesn't really have the upfront scoring. You do see a little bit of it on the board, but it hides some.
Yeah.
Based, of course, on how you play. It's really up to you. The other thing is the art. Very few indie games have this stunning of art. And if you look down in the corner here, you can see the box art. They've got an amazing artist. That's the actual box I've got propped up in front of a camera. An absolutely amazing artist who's done some professional work. And then they got a couple more artists to work on the cards. So for me, it's really, it's a card game. I like card games, obviously. It's got not really a deck building element, but a crafting element, which I love crafting. So for me, this was a pretty easy decision on something I wanted to try.
One of the things that I actually liked about this game was the fact that, you know, in some ways, you feel like what you're doing is going to affect your ability to win the game, of course, you know, like any good game, that's something that you want. But at the same time, you know, you do feel kind of compelled by what cards you have, by what's out on the board. So it's like this very sweet spot between being able to make decisions and having limited decisions. You're not necessarily sitting there forever just staring at your cards and then staring at the game and staring at your cards and going, one more second, guys. I just need to figure out how I'm doing this, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of got that balance kind of perfectly. One thing that I was really surprised with was the obvious strategy was not the only strategy.
Yeah.
You know, as you know, in the session video, like, we thought you were totally screwed.
There's something called King's items that if you watch a little bit more, you can see one of them here on our little side table, and they're really worth a lot. And Nicole and our friend Jeremy were pumping out a lot of these. And I finally got one towards the end of the game, and I'm going, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
It's over. I'm out.
And then it turned out that that wasn't the case at all, that there's actually another strategy which wasn't the obvious strategy. So, you know, even though the cards basically were like, nope, you aren't getting King's items, it actually worked out okay for you.
Yep.
So that was really interesting to me.
Yeah, that's one of the things I did love about this game was also one of the things that I try to focus on in the games I make is kind of the interaction between players. And all too often, like, one of our favorite games of all time is probably Thunderstone, which is also a little bit competitive, but a little bit cooperative. But I always felt that game missed some of the interaction between players. The only interaction you really get is, did somebody buy something out of the market before you did?
Or did somebody defeat the monster before I got to it?
Yeah, fair point. But in this game, one of the things I really loved was you have your own little market you set up. And that market, oh God, you're sitting there, you're holding this card in your hand, and you're going, if I refine this gem, it's worth like 16 or 20 that I can sell to the market. And oh God, I need that money. That's a lot of money. In a game where it looks like you end up at maybe a couple hundred points to win most of the time, getting like an extra 10% off of one card sale is huge. But there's that risk. You put that gem out in your market, waiting until your next round to sell, and then somebody else just buys it out of your market and completes a King's item, and you're going, oh, fuck.
But, you know, I mean, you get more money when another player buys it from you than when you sell it to the warehouse. So, I mean, that's an interesting balance as well. Like, you know, that's one strategy which we never tried, which I'd like to actually try, is actually, like, playing it so that you're selling the things that other people need to buy for their King's items. And
so rather than not crafting
works.
so much, trying to really get the valuable stuff. So in some cases, somebody sells or puts up an unrefined gem. You could possibly buy it for cheap, refine it, and then resell it to somebody else or to the market and potentially really earn up money. Now, one of the other things is you'll see here you've got a stack of cards. So one of the things is you have all these little crafting materials here. And those are the things you need to craft up. And in this example, I've pre-built everything that's needed. Those are materials you have to acquire from other people, from the market, or from decks, and refine them in many cases before stacking them in under a card and crafting it to get that wonderful 80 points that you desperately want out of that. But as you can see, this is some gorgeous art on that card. Even the mining cards have some amazing art. This is an example of one of the runes. It's simple, but it's gorgeous. And even the gold, it sticks with that nice, clean art style. It reminds me a little bit of like World of Warcraft and how they had a very simple but clean art style that looked good even on like old P3 machines back in the day when it came out. But they even take it up a notch with some of the character art, which is very similar to what you see on that box art, really finely detailed, interesting poses. Like, you're imagining this blacksmith just hammering away. Or the individual character cards, which also have some stunning art of various dwarves and related things.
Yeah, so, I mean, overall, I was pretty happy with it. I mean, when we first pulled it out, I was a little bit uncertain whether or not I was going to like it. I figured it might be up my alley, but it kind of drew me in. I was kind of surprised. It just like I wasn't in a good mood when we were playing this for the first time. And as the
that's not our session video, by the way.
Yeah, that's not our
that's
session video.
That's well in advance.
But the first time we pulled it out and were playing it, I wasn't in a good mood. But by the end of it, I was in a much better mood. Like, it just worked in a way.
Well, there's just something visceral about, in a weird sort of way, about I got the card I wanted. Now, what's the next 5 rounds to craft this thing I want? Yes. How am I going to bring, like, all these things together? Because the limited space you have in your workshop and the market and everything else, you're sitting there and you're balancing so many little things. Or I remember one tool that I got, which, it's hilarious. You can see it in the session video, and it's not quite obvious what I was thinking or what Nicole was thinking. But I got these, I think they're the pincers, and I got them, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, I really want this tool. It cuts off needing gems on very important things. But I need to make two items with gems in order to pay for the cost of the tool. Do I really want to craft this tool? Then again, I could sell it, maybe make a few bucks, or I could craft it and just sell it to the market and make a few bucks. And I'm like fretting over what to do with this. And finally, I'm like, I'm not sure I'm going to get the return on this. So I put it up in my market and I'm expecting to dump it. It gets around to Nicole's turn, and Nicole's like, mine. She just grabs it, crafts it immediately, and got a lot of benefit out of it.
Yeah, I think that was actually, it was that it, like, prevented you from needing a certain rune or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was gems. But in any case, it only worked on armors, I think. But I happened to have something in my hand, and I'm sitting here, and I'm like, I'm starved for the cards that I need.
Specifically the gems. And so it solved that.
It fixed my problem. So I was like, yoink.
Yeah, I'd have to say if there's one thing that I wasn't so much a fan of, it was probably it doesn't have a lot for communication while you're playing. So you can see some of that in the session video. We do a little bit of talking, but it's mostly ancillary to the main game. I think it would have been cool if they would have been able to incorporate something that involved people wanting to talk and needing to plan stuff with other people while they're playing a little bit more vocally, rather than just staring at their cards and trying to plan their next move a couple rounds in advance.
And trying to have a poker face up so that when the person like is slowly putting that card you need down in their market, and you're not like sitting there going, just drooling, staring at the card, so that they might, pull it back before you actually get a chance to buy it.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I'd say that hiding information felt like a fairly strong, like, a very good point in this game. Like, just staring as somebody put the, a card in the warehouse or something, and just being like, don't show emotion.
I don't really want that. I don't care if anybody else sells more stuff and puts it on top.
It's fine.
I don't care that Jeremy bought that sapphire right before I needed it. Yeah. Oh, wait. What was I saying?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so if it isn't quite clear, this is a definite vote yes from me as far as a game to buy. I have to say, even though we have a prototype here, and it's, as far as I know, a complete prototype, it has all the final art, everything else, I'm going to be backing the Kickstarter just because I see myself playing this game. I see us pulling this out like an occasional night, specifically the Friday nights when we like do Gloomhaven or things like that, and going, we've got like an hour and a half left. Not enough time for another round, but we want something quick to play. I could see us whipping this out just for a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, one thing that I'd say is that when you first look at it and you realize how little choice you have sometimes when you're staring at the cards in your hand, like, that can feel really frustrating. But I think that if you transcend that and you realize that, you know, you just have to work with what you have and make the best of it, it's actually a lot of fun. So that's the one thing. If you're really one of those people who, if you can't execute on the plan that you had going into the game, it's probably not for you. But if you're willing to work with the game, then what the game gives you, then I think it's a great game.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask us in the comments below. You can also ping us. We'll be watching the Kickstarter for a couple of days, trying to help with some questions if we see any arise. And I know Mike is very, very active. He's already pre-commented on our session video saying, hey, I'm here if anybody wants to ask any questions. So he'll be around as well.